with stories like Castaway in Dimension Z, The Iron Nail, and Who Will Be the New Captain America, let's take a look back at Volume 7 of Captain America's ongoing title in today's episode of Shortbox Showcase. Check it out. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris, and this is North Garden Comics. Last time we were together, I shared with you what I call a shortbox showcase, highlighting the 1985 series Marvel Saga, the official history of the Marvel Universe. That is a series where I take one of these boxes off of my shelves behind me here. I pull out a run or a story or a volume that I've collected and want to share with you, and then we just look through the books in that run. And I'm going to do another one of those this week, and I'll give you two reasons why. The first is to keep in line with what I had said a few weeks back, which was that I'm trying to expand the types of content that I share to better fully reflect who I am as a comic book reader and collector. And as I share those things, hopefully connect with even more of you who have similar interests. But then secondly, I'm doing another short box showcase this week because here in Minnesota, the COVID cases have gotten really bad the last several weeks. And so I haven't been getting out and doing dollar bin diving and things like that, or spending a lot of time in comic book stores to be able to get those kind of hauls that I would normally share with you. Not that I won't do those again, but we're kind of just taking a break right now and chilling while things are really kind of heated. So I'm going to bring you another short box showcase today. And today we're going to be looking at the 2012 series, Captain America. This is Volume 7 of Captain America. This is a 25-issue run, and in just a minute, I'll take you through those covers. But first, let me say, if you like this kind of content, please take just a second, hit that subscribe button. And as you watch, if you like what you see, give it a thumbs up. And please, as always, I love to hear your comments down below. Questions, things that you're reading, things that you'd like to see, whatever you feel like putting down there. So, that being said, let's swing the camera around and give you a closer look at this run. Okay, here we go with Captain America, Volume 7. Here's issue number 1 to start with. The whole volume is written by Rick Remender, and the three main artists on the volume are John Romita Jr., who starts it off, and then there's Carlos Pacheco and Nick Klein, who do really the second 2/3 or so of this run. But we get kicked off with John Romita Jr., and his is an art style that I go back and forth on. I think some things I've really liked, some things I haven't liked as much, but he does these first 10 or so issues of this. In this story, you'll get a lot of flashbacks to Steve Rogers' childhood, and so you see a lot of what formed him and made him into the man that he is today as Steve Rogers, as Captain America, and kind of kicks off with this, mid-action series that's going on. He's going down with a plane here, in the middle of a mission or just finishing up a mission, and then he wraps that up, and where it transitions to is he and Sharon Carter are investigating this unused train line or subway line in New York. No one knows where it goes to, or it's been out of commission for a long time, and so they are sneaking on. There's only room for one of them, so of course Steve is the one to volunteer. It's his comic book after all, so he hops on there. But then these kind of, I don't know what, some kind of, it's not he's got cuffs, but then this weird brace drops down around him, and does that around everybody else too. And then he's like, uh-oh, I'm in for some trouble here. And then that subway line, you're not in Kansas anymore, Steve. So, and then he gets the needle to the back of the neck, which just looks terrible. And he wakes up in what we know to be Dimension Z, and this is run by Arnim Zola. So he sees him, and they have some dialogue. I don't want to give too many spoilers here, so I'll do my best to keep this as spoiler free as possible. But he finds himself in Dimension Z, and then he escapes from Zola, and you can see he's got a little baby there that he's rescued. But that kind of wraps up issue 1. We go into 2, and now you're going to fast forward. This is one of those stories that
Captain America leaves our universe, our dimension, goes into an alternate dimension, alternate reality, and he spends a lot more time there than the time that passes here. And that's happened numerous times in comic books, but he spends a little over a decade here in Dimension Z, and which is really kind of crazy when you think about it. He was already a man at a time because he went on ice, World War II era, and then he wakes up in modern day. That's a shocker. And then who knows how long he was here. Actually, I'm sure someone knows how long he was here in the Marvel 616 universe before these events happened. In fact, I will say that in issue 1 of this series, he does talk about, and maybe it's, he talks about it in Dimension Z a little bit, the fact that he already feels out of time in the current timeline, and now here he is slapped into another dimension where he feels out of time again, and where he doesn't belong again. And so I don't know in continuity how many years have passed since he was thawed out of the ice before he came here to Dimension Z, but at least he makes some references where it's still somewhat fresh in his mind. This is Jet Zola, or Jet Black. She's a character that we get to see. She is actually Arnim Zola's daughter, and that's a cool page there. But you get to know her a little bit. I don't know, after this volume of Captain America, how much of a presence she's played in the comics at all. I tried to look it up online, and I did see some reference that maybe she showed up around the Secret Empire time when Cap was revealed to be an agent of Hydra. But I checked a little bit in my issues of that story, and I didn't see anything in the little checking that I did myself. But maybe if one of you knows, where has Jet Black appeared after this volume of Captain America, that'd be interesting to know, because she's kind of a cool character. We'll see her bits and pieces throughout this volume. pretty bloodied there. I will say too that the beatings that he takes are pretty intense, and he gets pushed to the point of near death on multiple occasions. And the narration of his, not thought bubbles, but the his little dialogue boxes here, or thought boxes, where he will narrate some of the injuries he's taken. And I think he started the series with broken ribs, or they broke shortly after he got to Dimension Z, and then they healed and then they get rebroken. But he takes a pretty good beating. But the way he thinks through and narrates his own pain and the battles reminds me a little bit of Dark Knight Returns, and how that narration, I remember that being the first time I encountered that type of writing, and really liked that kind of self-narration that way. So a little reminiscent of that for me. You got a little bit of a mockery of the Captain America shield, but a little bit more violent looking too, with all those spikes on the edge there. But as we go through here again, he spends 10 plus years here in Dimension Z, but when he gets returned at the end of this story arc, really no time at all has passed, or they started looking for him right away, and they find him pretty quickly. And I'll say the other time I remember reading that was in a few years ago. There was like a 10-issue series of one-shots that they did called, I think it was called Generations, where they paired up an older hero and the newer hero of the same name. So you had Iron Man and Iron Heart. You had Captain America Steve Rogers and Captain America Sam Wilson. And in the Sam Wilson story, Sam gets transported back in time to the World War II era, and he winds up being stuck there, and he lives his entire life. He actually fights alongside Captain America in World War II, and after World War II, he goes on, he has a family. I think he becomes like a pastor, and he's a community leader, and he goes on, lives his whole life. He watches the events of Captain America and the Avengers unfold around him. And then finally, at the very end of his life, I forget exactly how it happens, but it's at that time that it was either when he died or right before he died that he's brought back to the exact moment that he was pulled from our reality. And that just, when I stop and think about it, it kind of blows my mind, because if you think about living a life once of 80, 90 years, and now you've got a guy who has lived into his, say, 30s, and then he gets pulled away into a different dimension, a pocket dimension, or maybe it's in his mind, who knows. But then he lives an entire life from that point on till the end of his life, and then all of a sudden, like a rubber band, gets snapped back, and he's only 30-something again, but you maintain the memories of that lifetime that you lived. And that, I don't know, you just figured that's got to wreak havoc on one's mental health. I mean, think of Steve, he's like an old man, living an extra long time, but how many comic characters have been pulled out of our reality, lived an entire lifetime, and then back they are to pick up where they left off? I don't know, it seems to be kind of taxing. All right, so this last, I didn't say anything. So issue 10 here, this is where Cap returns from Dimension Z. So he makes it out of there, and now he's back in New York. And this is an emotional issue, because he comes back and he's still got some flashbacks here of his mom when she was sick, and knowing she was going to die, and preparing him for what his life was going to be like after that. And that's where he learned to always stand up. Every time you get knocked down, stand up again. But here he is back. He's in a hospital bed. They're fixing him up, patching him back together after his time in Dimension Z. And he's getting used to reality again. You see Jet Black is here in our reality now. But as he kind of goes through, I'm gonna get to Nuke yet. Maybe it's the next issue, but they do start to set up here. Nuke is one of the next villains that he gets to deal with, and this goes across a few issues. But I'll show you. So this is really just his "I'm getting back to reality" issue and transitioning. But here, I'll show you what I was about to say before. I believe is in this issue. Maybe this is the one that gets somewhat emotional. We start to see the setup of the next villain, this guy, the Iron Nail. I really don't know much about him, but it has to do with this dragon guy, and this guy having a willing heart and wants to, topple the West. But Falcon shows up. Jet Black is staying with Steve Rogers right now, and he's like, hey, let's get out for a little bit. So they go, kind of adventuring, parkouring here, it looks like, around the city. And he had some tragic losses in Dimension Z, and it gets pretty emotional here, coming back and kind of coming to grips with that. So it's kind of an emotional issue as a reader, and for, of course, Steve as a character. But then he's not going to have much time to relax or get adjusted, because Nuke is on a rampage in this, I think it's an Eastern European country, but he's wreaking havoc in the name of America, and it's going to cause problems. But of course, that's exactly what the bad guys have planned. They want to topple the US and this empire and get rid of the rich and powerful and things. So this is that Iron Nail guy. You got Dum Dum Dugan, Captain Falcon show up. All right, dealing with Nuke. This goes a few issues. This issue, this scene actually takes place in the story. Cap is still reeling over his tragic losses that he experienced in Dimension Z, and it brings him to a near breaking point where he almost kills Nuke, and Falcon stops him, thankfully. And so it causes Cap to really kind of examine himself and say, wow, I got a little too close to the line there. I was ready to cross that line, and Sam pulled him back. Then we're setting up this story here for this Iron Nail story that's been building. Going on here up to issue 15 here, and we're well into Carlos Pacheco's run on this from an art perspective. Nick Fury there. Maria Hill. They've got Nuke imprisoned, and try not to give spoilers here, but this character, I think, I don't know if he's shown up before. I will say that throughout the Avengers history, you get some kind of corny characters. This guy is called Dr. Mind Bubble, and he looks a little like a red and blue Riddler type character from the 1960s Batman series, but he's got this vent in his head, this pipe that comes out, and it actually blows bubbles, but they're mind control bubbles. And he was part of a weapons program called Weapon Minus, which, long story short, was intended to counter or be a counterbalance to the Weapon Plus program. This is a one-shot, not a one-shot story, but a one-shot for this artist Pascal Alixe, and he's got a pretty nice style. I like it. I like this 2-page splash he's got of jet black. She must be kind of tough because it's snowing here in New York, and she's running around the rooftops of buildings essentially barefoot. So getting a little workout in, getting adjusted to this new world. Meet some different characters there. We'll just say that the Red Skull makes an appearance. Where is he here? Yep. He's trying to recruit her. Won't go into too much detail on that. Get back over here. Iron Nail Part 1 now. This is, Marvel was doing this for a little while where they'd put a big number 1 in the top corner, even though this is issue 16, because they would identify that as a good jumping on point if you were new to the series. That's the beginning of a story, so you could jump on there. That's the kind of the prologue for it, and then you get into Part 1 here. And Dr. Mind Bubble and this Iron Nail guy, they're working together. And there's going to be a big spoiler coming up here in a little bit, and I may or may not. I'll probably have to say it because it was the story that I first went for that got me started on collecting this volume, and then after getting that story, I expanded it out to collect the full 25 issue run. Before we go on to the next one, though, here's one of those bubbles. His head, Nick Fury's head's in this bubble, and now he sees reality differently than what it is. So he's able to be manipulated to do things that he otherwise would not. So we kind of keep on going through here. This is a giant special type of helicarrier that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been working on, and Captain America doesn't even know about it. It's been kept secret from him. But now they're kind of all converging in this area because the bad guys are there. There's good guys being mind manipulated to do bad things. And we're going to kind of, what is this, part 3? As we're moving through here. Taking the fight. And now Iron Nail, that dragon kind of poked him in the chest when he approached him initially and gave him some power. And this is what it is. It looks like it turns into some kind of strange, he almost looks like an alien thing. He's got these red spike tendrils that come out of his chest. They don't really explore too much, unless they explore him outside of this volume. I'm not familiar with the Iron Nail concept or where that power comes from or what exactly it involves. So you got a good shot of him on the cover there. And doesn't bode well for Cap if he's got the vibranium shield in his hands and he's snapped it in half. But as we go through here, yeah, I'm not going to tell you what's going on here in the details, so you can read that yourself if you like. But I will say that if you like Captain America, if you're looking for inexpensive ways to add issues to your collection, this volume is a good one because you can pick up most of these issues inexpensively. And just about everything I'll show you in my videos will be things you can pick up inexpensively because that's how I like to pick up my comics. Sometimes I get real lucky and find a valuable book for an inexpensive price, but most of these I found at different local stores and conventions, and the most I paid for any one of these issues was $1. And then a good number of them I spent either 25 cents or 50 cents on. Now, here comes the spoiler. So if you don't like spoilers, don't pay attention here. You might want to fast forward like 30 seconds or so, but I think this storyline is pretty well known now. It's in this issue here, issue 21, that Steve Rogers loses the super soldier serum. So Iron Nail has those red tendril things, hits him with them, sucks out the super soldier serum, And this starts that kind of that chapter of Cap's life where he's an old man and not functioning in the field as Captain America. So then we get here to issue 22, and you can kind of see some of the hints of that as well, or the evidence of that. This is the aftermath. I don't know where this comes from, this first image. I haven't looked that up, but the realism is fantastic, and it's the kind of that opening page on every issue in this volume, and I just think it's great art there. I don't know who does it, but I'd like to find out. So yeah, now we're seeing, sorry if you didn't want the spoilers, you're seeing evidence of it still. I apologize. Little rendezvous here with Jet Black and Sam. And now we've got Red Skull and Arnim again. Get the little bit of Avengers action here. Now we're getting close here. We're issue 23. There's that opening page again. But as we round this out, we're kind of in the final story here, whereas the Dimension Z story started with Arnim Zola trying to bring an army to Earth and basically convert everybody into a bunch of little Zolas. Now he's trying that again here a little bit later. Look, he's got his Unvengers, and they're there to attack the real Avengers from our world. So kind of getting into the end here. Got the penultimate issue here, number 24, coming to the climax of the battle. And good old Falcon here, coming down to the wire. There's a bomb. It's going to detonate. There's nothing you can do. It's going off in 30 seconds. And Sam being the hero there and taking the bomb out of harm's way and seemingly blown up in the sky. All right, and here is the final issue of the volume, issue number 25. It's a little bit oversized at a $4.99 price tag originally. It's a pretty famous cover now, I think. And again, apologies for spoilers. It's almost unavoidable, but I think it's a pretty well-known storyline now since it's about 7 years old. But who is the new Captain America? We now know that is Sam Wilson, and they reflected that even in the MCU when Steve Rogers, as an old man, hands over the shield to Sam Wilson. One of the differences being that in the cinematic reality, he's not going to take on the name Captain America. He's still going to maintain his name as Falcon, but here he becomes Captain America. You've got Carlos Pacheco doing interior art, but Stuart Immonen doing the cover, and I love his art. I fell in love with his style on All New X-Men when Brian Michael Bendis was writing it, and he does kind of the epilogue pages at the end of this issue, but just a fantastic style working with Von Grawbadger, and he will take over the next title that will reset for Sam Wilson. But this is, again, the final issue here, wrapping things up. I would say my one criticism of this volume, or of this issue, I should say, is that it felt rushed. I think they could have drawn this out a little bit longer. I don't know what drove them to have it all encapsulated in one issue, but when we left issue 24, Sam had taken that bomb into the sky. It had blown up, and of course you wonder, is he dead? And not really thinking he is because it's comic books, and even if he were, he'd come back. But he's falling, he gets caught, and he's not dead, and you can read about what saved him, but he's not dead. There's a reunion. Everybody's kind of getting back together after the battle here. There's a falling out there I won't tell you about, so you can read it yourself. But then it fast forwards all of a sudden to 1 week later, and all these Avengers are showing up, and it's to hear the announcement that Sam Wilson is going to be the new Captain America. And I don't know, I really think that's a huge story, a huge plot line, and I think they could have, told that over a few issues more. Maybe there were deadlines, I don't know, but they condensed it into this one issue. All of a sudden, he's Captain America, and he's got the shield, and they say, let us hear it. And of course, he yells the battle cry, Avengers Assemble. Then you get this little epilogue, and I'm showing you because it's Stuart Immonen's art, and I just, love the style. And he and Von Grawbadger just work so well together. Just love the way the reds are, the contrast and colors. Really does a nice job there. And it's only like 3 pages, but he will pick up with the all-new Captain America. I don't have that. I only have a couple issues of the Sam Wilson Captain America, and it's where they tied in with some of the things they were doing with Steve Rogers. But that's the Captain America. Again, Volume 7, 25 issues by Rick Remender, John Romita Jr., Carlos Pacheco, and Nick Klein, amongst many others.
All right, that's going to do it for me, and that's going to wrap up this episode of Shortbox Showcase, spotlighting the 2012 series, Captain America Volume 7. I hope you saw something that you liked. As a reminder, if you're not already subscribed, please take just a minute and hit that subscribe button. After all, if you've managed to last this long, you might as well go ahead and hit the button. If you did see something that you liked, give it a thumbs up, and please, again, leave me your comments down below. Have you read this series before? Let me know your thoughts. If you haven't read this series, are you thinking about adding it to your collection? Again, it's a good, relatively easy series to put together, either as single issues and definitely as collected editions like trade paperbacks. If you're not ready for the fun to stop, I've got another Shortbox Showcase here for you to check out, or a back issue haul if you like that kind of thing. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.